Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel BNB Daily Spoiler. The return we deserve. It's time to bring back the OG BNB bad girl Amber Mori.
The recompense we deserve. It's time to bring back Amber Moore, the original BNB bad girl. Amber Moore's return is being manifested, and Deke Sharp has returned to BNB. Imagine her witnessing Deacon's marriage to Sheila. The chef's kiss will be chaos. Imagine Amber returning to this mess after raising Deke on her own and losing him several times. Sheila is hiding. Taylor and Deacon are flirting, and Deke Sharp has returned to the bold and the beautiful. After all these years, picture Amber Moore returning to Los Angeles. We are formally manifesting the chaos, which will be delicious. Deke and Amber have unresolved matters. For those who don't remember, one of the most tragic plots The Bold and the Beautiful has ever told is Amber Moore's relationship with Deke Sharp. After her biological child was stillborn and her mother Tawny substituted Becky Moore's child, Amber raised Deke as her own son. She fought for that little boy repeatedly, lost him repeatedly, and loved him with all of her heart. Becky begged Amber and CJ in a video message after she passed away to jointly raise her son. Amber made an effort. She gave it her all. However, Amber's world collapsed when Deacon Sharp entered the picture and took custody. Before Deacon persuaded her to give little Eric back, she even had a breakdown and fled to Furnace Creek with him. Deacon said he was staying with his grandparents, Joe and Tilly Moore, when we last heard from him. At the age of 26, Deke has returned to Los Angeles and is employed at Forrester Creations as a fashion designer for hope for the future. Amber is also nowhere to be found. But what if she returned? Something is missing from the current mess. Let's examine the current events surrounding Deacon Sharp. He is in love with Taylor Hayes, and they are set to share a kiss this week. But he is married to Sheila Carter, a literal psychopath. While Deacon is busy kissing her therapist, Sheila never stops talking about how blessed she is. Steffi and Hope are at odds over whether Taylor and Deacon belong together. It's complicated, disorganized, and lacking one essential component, Amber Moore. Imagine Amber entering Il Giardino and seeing Deacon, her ex-lover, wed to Sheila Carter, the woman who terrorized the Forresters for decades. The eight-toed woman. Honestly, Amber would go completely insane. We would be there with her. More significantly, though, picture Amber seeing Deke once more. The young man she reared, cherished, and lost is now employed at Forrester Creations with Hope, Deke's half-sister, whom Deacon conceived with Brooke while he was married to Bridget, Brooke's daughter. Amber would get a migraine just looking at the family tree, but the emotional reunion would be devastating in the best way. Amber refused to let Sheila get away with it. The thing about Amber Moore is that she is a fighter. She doesn't put up with people's nonsense because she has experienced hell and back several times. Amber would instantly go into protective mode for both Deke and Hope if she returned and discovered that Deacon had wed Sheila Carter. Amber understands what it's like to have her kids in peril. She understands what it's like to battle against overwhelming odds for the people she loves. She also refused to watch Sheila Carter pretend to be a contented housewife with the father of the kids she assisted in raising. Furthermore, is it possible that Amber and Taylor would become close due to their shared distaste for Sheila? Taylor might need Amber's encouragement to go after Deacon guilt-free. Alternatively, Amber might make matters more difficult by continuing to harbor feelings for Deacon. In any case, we are here because her return would fuel an already raging fire. The atrium of Forrester Creations was alive with activity. The scent of jasmine lingered, a feeble attempt to mask the more overpowering sense of ambition. Sales charts glowed. Interns ran with couture samples. With his usual composure, Ridge sat behind his desk, but his hands tapped a rhythm on polished wood, the kind of beat that indicated an impending storm. As the elevator chimed, Brooke, flawless, fierce, and exhausted from years of fearlessly falling in love with the wrong men, looked up. "Is there someone new on the floor?" "You always ask that question rhetorically in Genoa City," she said, despite the fact that everyone in the building had long since discovered this. The doors then opened. Like a woman who had worn the world, rewoven it, and decided she wanted a turn, Amber Moore emerged. She still had that Amber swagger, but it was no less dangerous. Her smile was a little more practiced, and her edges were a little rougher. People muttered. Whispers from cell phones grew louder. Steffi's eyes narrowed. Suspicion was her first language. She seems familiar. Ridge remarked, too familiar. Because Amber is more than a flashback. She is a tale that tugs at current themes, old rivalries, alliances, and an unresolved past with Sheila that, if handled like a lit match, could ignite the whole canvas. Amber's love of drama and how a reappearance might pit her against Sheila once more have long been the subject of soap opera media speculation. Amber had returned for more complicated reasons. She hadn't come back for a stable job in fashion. She had a strategy. She had a debt to pay off, but it wasn't always financial. Rather, it was a debt that resided in the sensitive areas of one's heart. Scene, boardroom at Forrester. A shiny table. Individuals wearing fitted suits. It smelled like perception management in the press release. With the cautious civility of a man who understood that drama was unavoidable, Ridge said, "Welcome back." Amber grinned. "Ridge," she uttered in a low voice. "I'm not trying to be subtle." Brooke clenched her jaw. "Amber." "Brooke, you never really liked me. You believe that people like me are a problem that can be solved with a good glass of wine and a smile." Amber's eyes were sharp, but beneath the surface there was a weariness from survival. "I'm not here to go back in time. I'm here to make a fresh steak." No one asked a Forrester to be small, of course. What does Amber want? Was the question that everyone wanted answered and that the tabloids would publish before lunch. Neither of the two things she desired fit neatly on a ledger. First, redemption. Not the kind that comes with interviews about regret and charity galas. True redemption is the kind that necessitates daily attendance and hard work. The second is retaliation. The Moore family has a long history of wrongdoing, and Amber had never been the type to button her coat and act as though nothing had happened. Without both, it is impossible to be Amber Moore. She made a subtle first move, but in Genoa City, subtlety is merely a warm-up. Amber entered Il Giardino, where Hope was editing a blog about sustainable silk and Thomas was drawing fabric lines. She ordered espresso like a wealthy person who wanted to taste it slowly while sitting shamelessly at the bar. Thomas was the first to notice. He whispered to Hope, "I know her. Amber," the shadow of the old recordings. When Amber heard, she grinned. She remarked, "I hear you young Forrester types like to keep the past alive." The tone of her voice exuded confidence and trouble in equal measure. Hope was wary but understanding, having experienced her fair share of Forrester soap operas. "Are you all right?" she inquired. Amber responded with a tale. She remarked, "I'm sick of people writing chapters for me that I didn't approve. I've been a pitiful spectacle for far too long. I've returned to writing my own pages." The line touched down. It was the kind of sentence that producers dream of and that causes characters to lean in. Naturally, the town was talking about Sheila Carter, which made Amber's return especially significant. Before her recent attempts to become quiet, domestic, and even redeemed, Sheila had been a villain to the marrow. The past of Amber and Sheila is a patchwork of peril, treachery, and conflicting allegiances. Sheila's delicate tranquility would be in jeopardy if Amber came back right now. With romantic dinners with Deacon, thin smiles at family get-togethers, and new granddaughter who supported her, Sheila's life had veered toward normalcy. However, Amber's presence was like a finger pointing at an open wound. Amber had a memory, proof, and an accusation that she alone was authorized to make. What happens if Amber digs? Deacon questioned Sheila about how men pose risky queries in the hopes of receiving a comforting response. Sheila gazed at him with a tiny, perilous serenity. She said, "Then she digs. We have to deal with the digging. We seal the grave." Sheila's voice carried the weight of a woman who had experienced the transient nature of forgiveness, fragile but real, which made Deacon smile. He desired consistency. Sheila desired forgiveness, or at least the appearance of it. Both will be put to the test by Amber's return. In her second act, Amber formed an unexpected alliance. She went to Deacon, who had a past with Rick, Amber, and the chaos in Forrester, and asked for his assistance. Deacon had a complex moral ledger. He had committed many transgressions, but his intense love for his family occasionally turned his transgressions into their own redemption stories. "You have faith in me." When she got to his small house, which smelled like coffee and was filled with the ghosts of decisions he had regretted, Deacon asked. Amber let out a relieved laugh. "I believe you to be truthful." Deacon paused. "Honesty costs a lot. So's retaliation," Amber remarked. "Both of us have bills." Together, they plotted more like people who understood how to stifle a story than as villains. Amber wanted Sheila to answer for a cover-up that had allowed a crime to go unpunished, something she had always suspected. Deacon desired a return to normalcy. These objectives came together to form an uncomfortable agreement. There were rumors. When Brooke heard them, her motherly cautions came down like thunder in the summer. One evening in the Forster kitchen, Brooke said icily, "Amber, if you cause harm to my family." With a tone of mild cruelty, Amber answered, "You lost being perfect a long time ago, Brooke. I have no intention of harming anyone. I'm going to be honest. In Genoa City, the truth is rarely impartial. It serves as a weapon, a tool, and occasionally the only medication a wound will take." If it meant putting an end to Sheila's soap opera of reform, Amber was prepared to be the blunt instrument. When Amber met Rosie, the reserved youngster raised by Marcus, her arc grew. Now that she was older, Rosie had Rick's unyielding jaw and Deacon's eyes. She had no desire to participate in the previous conflicts. However, Amber's sudden claim to family made the Forrester lineage seem like paper roses in a storm, which piqued her interest. In a late-night diner booth with neon seeping into their coffee, Amber once told Rosie, "You're part of this family whether they like it or not. Family can also be a lifesaver, or a charge." Rosie, who was wise beyond her years in subtle ways, observed Amber as though for the first time she had seen the person behind the headlines. "Why return now?" she inquired. Amber's response was a masterwork of simplicity. "I'm sick of being a footnote. I'd like to be a sentence." Rosie gave Amber a smile that indicated she understood more than she had anticipated. As the weeks went by, Amber's presence changed the way people talked. She talked openly and awkwardly with hope about forgiveness and mistakes, stomped into Jackie's office like someone reclaiming territory with a glittering heel, and sat in the Forster garden and watched Thomas sketch. However, Amber wasn't acting by herself. She found allies in unlikely places, such as a tabloid editor who devoured secrets like candy, a rogue stylist with a grudge against Sheila, and Sally Spectra, who had her own complaints about the Forster way. Although messy, the alliances were successful. Like electricity, ambition flowed through them. The scene where Amber confronts Sheila is unavoidable. Like most dramatic confrontations in Genoa City, it was raining. Amber was standing in a parking lot that smelled of coffee from the previous week and oil. Sheila came out, calm in her perilous manner. Sheila said in a low, trivia-filled jab, "You always loved making scenes." Amber moved to the front. "I cherished being observed. You once left me in the dark. You informed them that I was the bad guy. You informed them that I was deserving of what I received." Sheila's gaze wavered. "You failed to assist yourself." "No," replied Amber. "I didn't. You would never believe how much I helped myself. However, I have receipts, and the truth is the truth." Sheila's grin faded. "You brought receipts, then? That's really contemporary of you." Amber snapped her tiny phone and said, "Receipts." Even Sheila, the queen of poise, appeared mortal all of a sudden. The exchange was more about the silent dismantling of an outdated power structure than it was about slaps or yelling. Documents, witness accounts, and a video that presented an alternative account of a night that everyone had wished to forget all revealed Amber's truth. It caused people to remember, which was the tiniest cruelty of all. The fallout was like a brand. Some took Amber's side. For reasons no one could quite put their finger on, some people wanted the old Sheila back. With his allegiances divided between the woman who had reared him and the woman who now claimed kinship with his daughter, Deacon stood in the center. Ridge made remarks regarding loyalty at a press conference hosted by Brooke that might have been called damage control for the ages. In the following collection, Thomas included a line that hinted at rebirth. The confused were counseled by hope. The town's roster was as usual. In contrast, Amber discovered that the price of truth was greater than she had anticipated. Teeth were revealed by old friends. Calculus was complicated by former lovers. One night, Rick, an older man with softer eyes who she had once loved and wronged, stood across the room and asked her a straightforward question: why now? Because I've been tired of being less than whole, was Amber's straightforward response. Because nobody else will tell it if I don't. Because I want to be known for something genuine. It was a noble statement, and above all, soap operas honor noble statements that fall apart as soon as they are spoken aloud. Amber's return wasn't a war in the end. It was both a remaking and an unmaking. She did not depart with complete vengeance or neat redemption. She went and remained in a place where it was difficult to distinguish between heroes and villains, but she was always unquestionably human. Dinner at Forrester Creations was the arc's last scene, at least in this first chapter. Amber was seated at the head of a table to which she had never previously been invited. Steffi smiled cautiously as she poured wine. With the caution of a queen, Brooke observed Amber. Sheila sat on the other side, her expression unreadable. A small, public pact was made when Deacon's hand touched Amber's across the table. For once, Amber did not feel alienated as she surveyed the table. Maybe she felt respected, but she also felt tolerated. She would return to demand a sentence. To earn the entire paragraph, she still had a long way to go. Amber raised her glass. To beginnings, she uttered. They made a clinking sound. The sound was simultaneously light and heavy, and the camera lingered on Amber's face, because in the world of B&B, cameras are always present. She was a woman who had mastered the art of taking full responsibility for her story. As the credits rolled, there were hints of more to come, including unresolved old secrets, the formation of new alliances, and a messy yet genuine home for Amber. The town would converse. Fans would applaud and scream. The inevitable rise in ratings would make producers happy. Above all, though, Amber had come back to stay. Not as a villain in someone else's story, but as the creator of a clumsy, magnificent, and incredibly human comeback. The best thing you can be in Genoa City is complicated, and Amber Moore is, at last, just that.